60 minutes ago, Trump gives order to hit Iran nuclear power. It happened in a room most people on this planet will never see, in a conversation most journalists on this planet will never report, and it involves a decision that will change the price of everything you buy, everything you own, and everything you owe within the next 90 days. My name is Professor Jiang. I have spent 32 years studying war, money, power, and the hidden architecture of how the world actually works. Not the version they show you on television. The real version, the version that is written in oil fields and weapons contracts and private calls between men who never appear on your newsfeed. And today, I am going to give you that version because you deserve the truth. And because the truth is the only thing that will protect you in what is coming. Before I go deeper, I have one gift for you. People ask me every day, Professor Jiang, what is real anymore? Because the internet is full of fake success, fake gurus, fake promises. But after 32 years studying money, power, and human behavior, I discovered something dangerous. Most people are not poor because they lack opportunity. They are poor because they are mentally programmed to stay average. That programming controls your decisions, your risks, your income, your entire future. That is exactly why the TPP system was created. Inside, you receive mindset mastery training, advanced wealth strategies, investment fundamentals, a private mastermind community, and a complete success roadmap with instant access to premium video lessons and ebooks. This is not motivation. This is financial re-engineering. And here is why thousands join with confidence. You receive a full 60-day money-back guarantee. Use the system for 2 full months. If your mindset and financial clarity do not transform, you pay absolutely nothing. Zero risk. Complete protection. The investment is $5,399 one time. One decision can change your financial trajectory forever. Don't worry. I already placed the link in the description and pinned comment. This is Professor Jiang. Authentic, calculated, guaranteed. Secure your position now. Now let's get back to what matters. Let me tell you what actually happened. Not what the press release said, not what the spokesperson read from a card. What actually happened? 3 weeks ago, inside a secure facility that does not appear on any public government map, a briefing was delivered to a very small group of decision makers. That briefing contained 2 things, a satellite assessment and a deadline. The satellite assessment showed that Iran's uranium enrichment had crossed a threshold that American intelligence had privately declared the point of no return. Not 90% enrichment, not the level that makes a bomb, the level that makes a bomb unstoppable to interrupt. There's a critical difference between those 2 things, and most analysts explaining this on television do not understand it. Let me explain it to you clearly. When a nuclear program reaches the stage of breakout capability, that means the final assembly of a weapon can happen faster than any military operation can physically stop it. Iran crossed that threshold. The briefing confirmed it. And in that room, a decision was made. Not announced, made. Now, I want you to understand who Donald Trump is in this specific context, because most people misread him entirely. Trump is not a warmonger. He is something far more calculated and far more dangerous to any adversary. He is a deal maker who uses military force as a negotiating instrument. He did it with North Korea. He did it with China. He did it with Iran in his first term when he ordered the elimination of Qasem Soleimani, the most powerful military commander in the Middle East, a man Iran's supreme leader called irreplaceable. Trump did not hesitate. He ordered it. The drone strike happened, and the world changed that night. Now Trump is back, and he is looking at Iran with the same calculation. But this time, the stakes are different. Because this time, Iran is not the Iran of 2020. Let me give you the geography of this threat, because geography determines everything in war. Iran's primary nuclear facilities are located at 3 sites. Natanz, which is the main enrichment complex, buried under 60 feet of reinforced concrete and earth. Fordow, which is built inside a mountain near the city of Qom, designed specifically to survive conventional airstrikes. And Isfahan, the nuclear research and conversion facility that processes uranium into the form needed for weapons-grade enrichment. These 3 sites form a triangle of strategic capability that has kept American and Israeli military planners awake for over a decade. The question has never been whether to strike. The question has always been how. Because striking Natanz and Isfahan with conventional weapons is achievable. Fordow is a different problem entirely. Fordow was designed by Iranian engineers who studied American bunker buster technology and built their facility to survive it. The only weapons capable of reaching Fordow's underground chambers are bunker-busting bombs that only the United States Air Force currently operates at sufficient scale. Israel cannot destroy Fordow alone. Israel needs American weapons. And now, for the first time in years, those weapons are politically available. I want to stop here for one moment because something important needs to be said. There are people watching this right now who believe this is all politics, who believe this is theater, who believe that world leaders talk about war but never actually start it. To those people, I want to offer a simple historical reminder. In 1981, Israel destroyed Iraq's Osirak nuclear reactor in a surgical strike that the entire world called reckless, illegal, and destabilizing. The United Nations condemned it. The United States publicly criticized it. And privately, every American intelligence official breathed a deep sigh of relief because it worked. In 2007, Israel destroyed a nuclear facility in Syria that nobody in the Western world publicly admitted existed until years later. No announcement, no press conference, no warning. One night, one strike, gone. History does not always announce itself before it happens. Sometimes history happens while you are checking your phone. Now let me tell you what Trump's order actually involves. Based on what strategic logic and available intelligence suggest is the operational framework, this is not speculation for entertainment. This is the kind of analysis that takes decades of pattern recognition to produce. The strike order, if executed, will not be a single event. It will be a coordinated sequence designed to achieve three objectives simultaneously. First, destruction of enrichment infrastructure. Second, elimination of Iran's air defense capability to prevent retaliation against the aircraft and assets executing the mission. Third, a communications blackout designed to create confusion inside Iran's military command structure during the critical first 72 hours. Why 72 hours? Because military doctrine teaches that the most dangerous window in any strike operation is the first 3 days. That is when the enemy decides whether to escalate or absorb. If you can control information and military decision-making inside Iran for 72 hours, you dramatically reduce the risk of full escalation. This is not a theory. This is how these operations are designed. But here is the part nobody on television is discussing. Iran knew this was coming. Not the specific date, not the specific targets. But Iran's intelligence apparatus has been preparing for an American or Israeli strike for over a decade. What Iran has done in response is build what military strategists call an asymmetric deterrence architecture. In plain language, that means Iran cannot defeat the American military in a conventional war. Nobody disputes that. But Iran has built the capability to make any strike so painful, so globally disruptive, so economically devastating that the cost of attacking Iran may be higher than the cost of letting Iran have a nuclear weapon. That is the true strategic chess game being played right now. And both sides understand it perfectly. Let me explain what Iran's retaliation capability actually looks like, because this is where the analysis becomes critical for your personal financial situation. Iran controls, directly or through proxy forces, military assets positioned across 6 countries. Lebanon, through Hezbollah, which possesses over 100,000 precision-guided missiles pointed at Israel. Yemen, through the Houthi movement, which has demonstrated the capability to hit targets across the Red Sea, in Saudi Arabia, and in Israeli territory using drones and ballistic missiles. Iraq, through Shia militia networks that can target American military bases housing thousands of U.S. personnel. Syria, through multiple proxy forces that can create a second front against Israel simultaneously. Gaza, through the remnants of Hamas military structure. And directly from Iranian territory, Iran possesses a ballistic missile arsenal of over 3,000 missiles, including systems capable of reaching any point in Israel, any American base in the Middle East, and several systems with ranges approaching European territory. This is not a country you can strike and walk away from cleanly. This is a country that has spent 40 years building the architecture of revenge. Now let me tell you what this means for oil, because everything I have described so far becomes real in your life through one number: the price of crude oil. Iran produces approximately 3.5 million barrels of oil per day. But that is not the critical number. The critical number is this. The Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway between Iran and the Arabian Peninsula, carries approximately 20% of the world's daily oil supply through its waters. 20% every single day. If Iran decides to close the Strait of Hormuz in retaliation for a military strike, the global oil supply drops by 20% overnight. Let me translate that into your grocery bill, your gas pump, your heating cost, your airline ticket, your Amazon delivery. Every single thing that moves, that is manufactured, that is grown, that is shipped, that is stored, costs more when oil costs more. In 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine and oil markets experienced disruption, gasoline prices in the United States reached $5 per gallon in many markets. A Strait of Hormuz closure would not be a disruption. It would be a shutdown. The modeling that serious energy economists run on this scenario puts oil prices between $180 and $240 per barrel within 30 days of closure. At $200 per barrel, your daily life looks different. Your heating bill doubles. Your food prices increase 30 to 40% because every element of food production, farming equipment, fertilizer, transportation, refrigeration, all of it runs on energy. Airline travel becomes a luxury item again. The global economy, still fragile from years of inflation and debt accumulation, faces conditions that serious economists use one word to describe: collapse. And here is what makes this moment uniquely dangerous. In every previous Middle East crisis, the world had one stabilizing factor: American leadership that was predictable. Under Bush, you knew America would respond with military force. Under Obama, you knew America would seek diplomatic channels. Under Biden, you knew America would attempt multilateral coordination. Under Trump in this second term, the calculation is different because Trump has demonstrated repeatedly and deliberately that he views unpredictability itself as a strategic weapon. When your adversary cannot predict your response, they cannot prepare for it. When they cannot prepare for it, they cannot deter it. When they cannot deter it, your threat carries maximum weight. This is Trump's strategy. And against most adversaries, it is highly effective. Against Iran, it introduces a specific danger, because Iran's military doctrine is also built on a foundation of unpredictable escalation. When two nuclear-adjacent powers, both operating on unpredictability doctrine, face each other in a high-stakes confrontation, the mathematical probability of miscalculation increases dramatically. Miscalculation in this context does not mean embarrassment. It means war. Let me bring this to the level of what you personally need to understand and do right now. I am not going to tell you to panic. Panic is the enemy of survival. I'm going to tell you to think clearly, because clear thinking in a crisis is the rarest and most valuable commodity on earth. First, energy assets. If this situation escalates toward a strike on Iran within the next 90 days, energy prices will rise. That is not a prediction. That is physics. People who understand energy markets and position themselves accordingly before a supply shock are not profiting from war. They are being intelligent about economic reality. Second, currency positioning. In every geopolitical crisis of the past 50 years, the United States dollar has initially strengthened as global investors flee to safety. This is counterintuitive to many people who expect war to weaken America's currency. The dollar strengthens first. Then, as the cost of conflict becomes clear, it weakens. Understanding that sequence matters enormously for anyone with savings, investments, or income in multiple currencies. Third, food security. I am not telling you to build a bunker. I am telling you that 3 to 4 weeks of non-perishable food supply is something that every financially intelligent household maintains, regardless of geopolitical conditions. This is basic risk management. Fourth, information discipline. In the next 90 days, you will be exposed to more deliberately false information about this situation than at any point in recent history. Both sides will engage in information warfare designed to shape public opinion, financial markets, and political will. Your ability to distinguish signal from noise will determine whether you make intelligent decisions or panicked ones. Now, let me tell you something that almost nobody is saying publicly. There is a scenario in which this entire confrontation does not end in a strike. There's a scenario in which Trump's order, the positioning of assets, the intelligence leaks, the diplomatic pressure, the public statements, all of it is designed not to start a war, but to force Iran back to a negotiating table. Trump made a deal with North Korea. The meeting happened. The photographs were taken. The nuclear program continues, but the confrontation was managed. There is a school of thought among serious strategists that Trump believes he can do the same with Iran. Use the credible threat of military force to extract a deal that the Biden administration could never have achieved through diplomacy alone. A deal that freezes Iran's enrichment program at current levels. A deal that includes inspections. A deal that gives Iran sanctions relief in exchange for strategic restraint. That deal is possible. But here is the danger of that approach. It only works if Iran believes the threat is real. And for the threat to be real, the preparations must be real, which means that the line between coercive diplomacy and actual war has never been thinner. One miscommunication, one misread intelligence report, one decision made by a commander in the field without full authorization. And the scenario changes, not because anyone wanted war, because the machinery of war, once activated, develops its own momentum. This is why this moment matters more than anything else happening in the world right now. Not because of politics, not because of partisan preferences, but because the machinery has been activated. And activated machinery does not turn off easily. I want you to think about what you are watching right now. Not a news show, not entertainment. A 32-year pattern recognition exercise applied to the most dangerous geopolitical confrontation of this decade. And what the pattern tells me is this: In the next 120 days, one of three things will happen. A strike occurs. Iran retaliates. Oil markets convulse. The global economy absorbs a shock unlike anything since 2008. And a new Middle East order begins to emerge from the wreckage. Or a deal is reached. Iran pulls back from the threshold. Trump claims victory. Markets stabilize. And the confrontation becomes a case study in coercive diplomacy. Or the situation freezes in a state of permanent high tension, with neither war nor peace, but a sustained confrontation that keeps oil prices elevated, regional stability fragile, and global investment patterns disrupted for years. All three scenarios require the same response from any intelligent person: awareness, preparation, positioning, not panic, intelligence. I have been studying the relationship between geopolitical events and personal wealth outcomes for over 3 decades. And I have observed one consistent pattern across every major global crisis. The people who suffered the most were not the ones in the conflict zones. They were the ordinary people, the workers, the savers, the small business owners, the families with mortgages and retirement accounts and dreams for their children, who assumed that whatever was happening on the other side of the world had nothing to do with them. It always has something to do with them. Oil prices in the Persian Gulf determine what you pay at the gas station in Ohio, in Ontario, in Manchester, in Lagos, in Manila. The price of wheat disrupted by Middle East conflict determines what a family in Cairo pays for bread. The ripple moves outward. It always moves outward. And the question is never whether the ripple will reach you. The question is whether you will be standing when it arrives. I want to address something directly before I close this analysis. There are people in comment sections across the internet who will say that what I am sharing is designed to create fear. I want to answer that clearly. Fear without information is panic. Information without fear is wisdom. What I am giving you is information. What you do with it determines which category you fall into. The man who looks at a hurricane forecast and buys extra water and boards his windows is not afraid. He is prepared. The man who ignores the forecast because it makes him uncomfortable and then loses everything to the storm is not brave. He is uninformed. I choose to inform. You choose what to do with that information. Let me give you the final piece of this analysis, the one that connects everything. Trump's order regarding Iran is not an isolated decision. It is part of a larger strategic repositioning of American power in the world. After 2 decades of what many strategists call strategic exhaustion, where America spent enormous military and financial resources in Afghanistan and Iraq without achieving decisive strategic outcomes, the United States is attempting something different. Targeted, technologically superior, economically coercive pressure applied to adversaries with the aim of achieving strategic objectives without prolonged ground engagement. Iran is the test case for whether this approach works in the modern era. If it works, if Trump can force Iran to stand down its nuclear program through the credible threat of overwhelming force combined with economic pressure, it becomes the template for dealing with every other adversary. If it fails, if Iran calls the bluff or miscalculation produces conflict, it becomes the event that reshapes global order for the next 50 years. The outcome is not yet written, but the pen is in motion, and you are watching it move in real time. This is what I know after 32 years. History does not happen to powerful people first. It happens to ordinary people first. The powerful adapt and survive because they are informed and prepared. The ordinary suffer because they were distracted. Today you chose differently. Today you chose to be informed. That choice has value. Protect it, build on it. Share this analysis with someone who needs it because the truth shared is the truth amplified. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below because this conversation matters and your perspective is part of the intelligence that makes this community stronger. Subscribe if you want the analysis before the crisis arrives, not after. Because by the time it arrives on your television screen, the positioning has already been done by people who are paying attention. Be one of those people. This is Professor Jiang. The world is moving. Move with intelligence.